I am so thankful to be in this space, in this moment, and we really are in a moment. We're in a moment in this series, we're in a moment in our city, we're in a moment in our country. There is a weight and awareness of this moment, and I consider it an honor to be right here. I'm so thankful for what this church means to my family, as they are sitting on their couch like so many of you. I'm so thankful for what the partnership between the organization that I get to work with, Venture, and Substance has meant over the years as we work together to bring justice to the unreached in some of the most difficult, horrific situations on the planet. This last year, through this partnership, we were able to provide more than 21,000 refugee meals every single day. And we were able to provide 1,200 people education on a regular basis. We were able to provide more than 700 young girls safety from human trafficking. And this year, this year, I think one of the most remarkable things, because we believe that the church is the hope of the world, this year we were able to partner to plant more than 155 brand new churches in some of the most unreached places on the planet, so that the very thing that we celebrate, the hope of Jesus Christ, is able to go to some of the most difficult places on the planet because of a relationship and a partnership with Substance. And I'm thankful that Substance, while they understand the big, while we understand what it means to go into all the places of the world, Substance is also passionate about this very space that we're planted in, this moment in time. I'm thankful for the leadership and the voice that Substance has had and continues to have as we navigate some of the most unique space that we've ever experienced as a city. I love this series, Love This City, a series that started years ago but seems more relevant and prophetic in this moment. Now, I know a lot of you, if you're like me, maybe you've seen on social media memes that are like, hey, I'm just done with 2020. I'm over it. You know, from COVID to the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent dialogue and violence and movement that's happening, to the pending political climate of the election that polarizes so many things, and people are just like, mask, no mask, whatever. I'm just over 2020. And as I look at that, I think of the great words from one of the greatest literary pieces ever, Hamilton, that I watched twice last week. Thank you to my kiddos. And there is this song that says something like this: look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around, how lucky we are. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that instead of feeling like, man, just get me through 2020, I'm sick of it. What if right now in this moment, this is the opportunity for the church to raise the conversation, to elevate the conversation, and to offer hope for the church to be more beautiful. I believe that the church in Minneapolis is more beautiful now than it was a month ago. I believe that what happens as a result of what's going on in our city and the church stepping up just like yesterday is more beautiful. What if we leave this conversation and we really believe that this is our moment? What if we believe that we are lucky to be alive right now, and this is a moment for the beauty and the hope of the gospel to be received like it's never been received before? So this idea of Love This City, more than a series, more than a serve day, but like a deep calling for us in this space, in this moment. And there are a lot of verses that I can talk about. There are a lot of stories in Scripture about loving this city. We could start all the way back to Jeremiah 29, which is what Drew Shep talked about a few years ago, that kind of launched the Love This City movement. Or we could talk about Nehemiah and his love for the city that brought him back to the city. He built up the walls, wanted to protect those within the city. We could talk about Jesus and him weeping over the city, or we could go the other way and we could talk about Jonah, who hated Nineveh, and his relationship with the city. But I want to talk not about a verse that has to do with a city, but with two people, a relationship between David, a king, and a guy named Mephibosheth. In 2 Samuel 9, we're going to look at just 7 verses that outlines this relationship between two people and what that has to do with us about Love This City, what this has to do with us so that Love This City isn't just something that is a series in the calendar once a year, but that we can recognize this prophetic moment that we are in right now where God has planted us to love this city now and into the future. In fact, I believe that what we do right now in this moment is going to help us understand who we will be in the next 10 years as a church, as a city, and as Christ followers. So let's read 2 Samuel 9, the first 7 chapters. And here's what it says. David asked, "Is there anyone left in the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now there was a servant in Saul's household named Ziba, and they called him to appear before David, and the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" "Your servant," he replied. And the king asked, "Is there no one still left in the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" And Ziba answered the king, "There is still a son of Jonathan. He is crippled in both feet." "Well, where is he?" the king asked. Ziba answered, "He's in the house of Machir, son of Amamiel in Lodebar." That's a mouthful. So King David had him brought from Lodebar, the house of Machir, son of Amiel. We're going to put a little pin in that verse because we're going to get back to verse number 5 specifically. And then in 6, when Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth?" "Your servant," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show you kindness for your sake, for the sake of your father Jonathan. And I will restore to you the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." So we know from preceding books and history that David has ascended to become the king of Israel, the nation of Israel. We know that he's from the lineage that will eventually become where Jesus is birthed. And we also know that he's not from the lineage of Saul. So Saul was the preceding king. And once David was anointed to be the king, but hadn't quite yet become the king, the relationship between Saul and David is complicated. So at points, Saul loves him, and at other points, Saul tries to get David killed because he was a threat to the ideology. In fact, there's points where Saul tries to personally kill David himself. To make matters a bit more complicated, Saul's son Jonathan and David are like best buds, BFFs, it's in the Greek. Their relationship is so tight that Jonathan says, "I'm going to protect you from my dad when he's like, trying to kill you." Now, speed up to this chapter, and Saul and Jonathan are both dead. History, we believe that they died in a same battle. David's now king, and he's in his palace. And David is asking this question, "To whom can I extend kindness?" I love this phrase. If you don't remember anything else, if you log off or you walk out or you check out, please, if we simply regularly ask, "To whom can I extend kindness?" we will move out of this series of Love Your City, and we will practice it on a regular basis. To whom can you extend kindness? But there are times, at least for me, and I have preached or taught or spoke about this passage multiple times. There are times in a verse, in a moment, where there's like, man, those words pop off the page to me. And then there are times when you study around it, like the context and what the listeners of the day would have heard, and you're like, man, that's even better than the actual words. And then there are times like this moment where you're like, those words, that backdrop is for us right now. Like the God of the universe is talking to us. So what I like to do is, while you can remember to whom can I extend kindness, I'd actually like to look at the phrases on either side of that and what was going on around that, which will help us, I believe, better understand what it looks like to really love our city past a weekend. And the first one, it says not just to whom can I extend kindness, but it says who from the house of Saul. This is an interesting phrase, and the listeners of the day would have understood what was going on. You see, when one king rose to power and was not in the lineage of the previous king, it would have been politically and militarily prudent to kill everybody in the previous king's family, in their lineage, to wipe them all out, so that they couldn't kind of have access to the throne, so they couldn't do a coup, so that they couldn't have any discrepancy. That leader, King David, would have been seen as very prudent and wise to just kill everybody. So it's interesting that David not only doesn't kill, but he asks, who can I extend kindness to? Who can I extend kindness to that's other, that's a threat? Who's different than us? Who are you extending kindness to that's different than you? That looks different, that thinks different, that behaves different, that has a different ideology than you, that could be a threat to you. What does it look like for us as people of Christ, as people of the church, to love people that are different than us in this season? That is a heavy question to ask. That is not easy. I'm not just talking about you trying to be nice to the people that you're sitting on the couch next to, although that's a good start. Boys, girls, kids, be nice to your brother and sister. I'm talking about people that are other, that pose a direct conflict to your ideology and your way of thinking. David would have been prudent to wipe them out. Instead, he says, to whom can I extend kindness? And this is not a one-time thought. In fact, in the New Testament church, in the Second Testament in Acts, for the first 300 years that the church was around, it was known by one phrase. You might think it's love your neighbor. You might think it's Jesus is great. But the one phrase, the hallmark calling card for the first 300 years was the phrase, love your enemies. Because it was so radically different than any other group, any other tribe, any other religious belief. And this love your enemies, the word enemies, enemy was around political and religious and personal. Anybody that had an opposing ideology, those are the people that we love the most, that we work the hardest to love. It's easy, maybe not easy to love your family, but at least that's a starting point. But opposing ideology, something that poses a threat to you. This is what we are called to. This is what it looks like for us to love our city in this moment, is not just to love people that vote like you or look like you or act like you or live near you, but is to take a step and say, who can I love that is different? Now, that's difficult in and of itself, but then on the other side is another phrase. So it doesn't just say, who from the house of Saul can I show kindness? But it says, who from the house of Saul can I show kindness on Jonathan's behalf, or on behalf of Jonathan? Now, if you know this story, you might know that Jonathan and David are friends. And you might go, well, that's easy because he likes Jonathan. But what you might not realize is that they were not first friends, they were first others, on opposite sides of the spectrum. In fact, when David was anointed to become king, guess whose spot he took? Jonathan's. Jonathan was in the lineage of Saul. David was a direct threat to Jonathan, and Jonathan could have been a direct threat to Saul. But in the context of relationship, they grew so tight that Jonathan said, I will protect you up to death. I think the only way that we're going to love the other, the only way that we're going to love those who look different, act different, believe different, who pose a threat, the only way that we are going to love those who are religiously, politically, or personally different than us is in the context of relationship. Who are you building a relationship with that's other? I don't mean throwing a few bucks or praying for somebody, although those are good things, but who are you building relationship with? Who are you willing to stop and listen and not just tell? We're good at telling. We're good at telling our opinion. We're good at posting our opinion. We're good at liking our opinion. We're good at reposting and resharing and re this and re that. But who are you spending time listening so you better understand the other? Those people that actually might threaten your way of living, your way of believing, your way of understanding, your way of thriving, your comfort level. Who is the other that you're willing to begin a relationship with? And the answer that Ziba gave, the person that David could extend kindness to, was this fella named Mephibosheth, which is interesting to keep pronouncing when it's being recorded. But Mephibosheth, it said, was lame of foot. The best we can understand is that his caretaker dropped him when he was a young baby, and he was lame with both of his feet. This is a very specific description of somebody, but it means something. Because in those days, you would never have somebody who had a physical blemish in the presence of royalty. You just wouldn't do it. It would have been the biggest faux pas, and yet David lets him come to him. Now, this would have been so scrutinized in the court of public opinion. They would have questioned David's leadership. Not only did he not wipe everybody out because of politics, because of military, but now he's letting this broken, deformed person into his presence. And he doesn't just let him into his presence, he invites him to sit at the table, and then not just once, not just for a Serve Saturday, not just for a religious selfie, not just for a post, but says, you can come sit at my table every day. To whom can I extend kindness? I've seen the benefits of just to whom can I extend kindness, right? There are incredible things. We watch it all the time. To whom can I extend kindness? I saw it yesterday with Serve Day. And it wasn't just that hundreds of people showed up at multiple sites, but I saw it because 20 plus people came to my daughter's school in North Minneapolis and chose to bless that school. It moved me. It absolutely moved me. I've seen what it looks like in this community. To whom can I extend kindness? When Forrest approached years ago and said, I want to start this thing called Manna Market and work tirelessly over and over and over again, only to get it up and running for this moment in time. So now Substance has provided tens of thousands of families meals. I've seen what it looks like when you say, to whom can I extend kindness? I've seen it when Jeff Zog called and said, I want to help some of the most vulnerable people on the planet with a bike ride. And has rallied 50 plus people to jump into spandex and to bike 100 miles. You laugh, but that's in the Greek. To whom can I extend kindness by wearing spandex? It's a very deep theological concept. And guess what? There's an answer. You can still sign up. Deadline's tomorrow. So if you've been looking for a way to extend kindness and wear spandex, you came to the right place. But I've seen what it looks like to say, to whom can I extend kindness? I saw it when my wife and I, when our city was burning. And all we needed to do was to try to be a person of peace, just like Jesus, and walk towards the pain. With the buildings burning, with the tear gas all around, with tears in my wife's eye, and she wanted to know what she could do and how she could extend kindness. And so she got home and she jumped on Facebook, God's chosen vessel, right, Facebook. And she did a simple post. If you want to respond to needs, food, hygiene, give a few bucks or drop off some stuff at our house. She went to bed. The next morning, more than $8,000 came in 12 hours. But it didn't stop there. I love this part, but it didn't stop there. Not 10,000, not 20,000, not 30,000, not 40,000, but $48,000 came in. In a week, people from all over were like, who can I extend kindness? How can I help? Pastor Carolyn was one of the first people that jumped on and said, Substance is in. Substance is always in this city, always asking, to whom can we extend kindness? And tens of thousands of families are affected when someone says, to whom can I extend kindness? But here, it's asking us for more. This morning, it's asking us for more. This morning, it's saying, don't just extend kindness. Don't just write a check. Don't just pull a few weeds at a school, but to do something deeper is to ask, who from the house of Saul, from a different ideology, looks different, acts different, believes different, who from that house that may potentially threaten us, who can I extend kindness, and what can I do in the form of relationship? Because the relationships that we build right now with the others will determine how we navigate the next crisis. The relationships that we build right now with the other will determine who Substance is in the next 10 years. To whom can I extend kindness in the house of Saul on behalf of Jonathan? And the answer was Mephibosheth, who is lame of foot. Who can you extend kindness? Who are you going to bring into your home that might cause people to question you in the court of public opinion? That might question your motive, that might question if you're part of this group or that group. Who are you reaching out? Because this is what Jesus did for us. And I said we were going to go back to verse 5. In verse 5, it says that David brought Mephibosheth out of Debar. Debar The translation means no pasture, no communication, no future. It basically was a desolate place. How'd you like to live in Lodabar, right? Like, it meant no hope. And it says that David brought Mephibosheth, lame, broken, blemished, out of a place of no hope, brought him into his home, and said, you get to sit at my table. As we've been working through these few sentences, what character in the story were you? Did you automatically place yourself as David, extending kindness from your place of position, offering, bequeathing, doing nice things to other people? Is that your default? And we are supposed to emulate the king. But if we miss the most important part of this story, and honestly of this book, it's that we are Mephibosheth. Each one of us is Mephibosheth. We are not first royalty. We are not first a position up here that gets to bequeath to other people. If you continually put yourself in the position of authority in a story, in the narrative, if you're the hero, if you're the good guy, the good girl, if you always position yourself there, then maybe you have forgotten that we are first and foremost and primarily Mephibosheth. We were in Lodabar. We were wandering. We were without hope. We are broken and blemished. And the good king came and brought us out of that place and gave us a spot at the table. The good king brought us out, and that is so important because we are not here to serve our city out of our place of privilege, out of our place of position, out of our royalty. We do it because we remember that we are Mephibosheth. And somebody who's been brought out of a dangerous, difficult place, who's been invited to sit at a table that they know they don't own, that they don't deserve, that they don't necessarily belong, but are so thankful to be at the table. Guess what? They want to create space for other people at the table. The theologian and philosopher said, we're just one beggar trying to show another beggar how to find bread. I am not demeaning you. I am not putting you on a lower pedestal. I am reminding us the good news of the gospel. One of the reasons why maybe we're not so excited to extend kindness to people that are different than us is because maybe we've decided that we have climbed the ranks and we're up here. But if we would remember that we are Mephibosheth and we are loved by a good king that brought us out of our desperation, then we will look around the city and know how important it is for us to share that news with other people. We don't first share how they should vote. We don't first share what they should feel about this or that or whatever. We don't first tell them how to act, behave, or look. We first tell them, I am like you. I'm Mephibosheth. And I've found a place where there is food. And I found a place where there is hope. And would you come with me because I want to help you find what I found. I love this city. And more than that, I love my city. And I believe that if we look around, we will know that we are lucky to be alive right now. Because we were in Lodabar, and now we're at the table. And in our city, we need to let everybody know there's a spot at the table for them. We need to let them know that we are not a church that does one thing on one weekend. We are not a church that does a series just once a year. We are not a church that does serve day only once, but we are a church of Mephibosheths that understand that we get to emulate the king. We get to extend kindness. We get to extend kindness to those who are ideologically different than us, who look and act and believe and behave different than we do. And we get to do it out of relationship. And those relationships will cause flourishing so that the next crisis that hits, substance will be there to continue to say, you always have a spot at the table of my king. It's not easy. Clicking like on Facebook is easy. Giving a couple bucks is easy. Some seasons easier than others, I get it. The call from one beggar to another is to remember that we're no longer in Lodabar. That is a room full of Mephibosheths. Watch how you say that. that we are alive right now to invite other people to the table. May we be a church and people that don't assume that our place is royalty, privilege, position that we bequeath to other people, but that we are people that have been saved by a good king. And we were invited to a kingdom that was talked about by an unruly rabbi on the side of a mountain in Acts. Maybe Luke. In Luke. Matthew 5, there it is, the unruly rabbi. He's crazy, he's hopping all around the books. Okay, never mind. We are invited to live this new way, this way that people need to desperately see the church living, that we would extend kindness to those who are different than us and invite them to a seat at the table of the King. As our campus pastors come up to give us next steps, I just want to pray for this church that I love. I want to say thank you. Thank you for being who you are in this city and in the world. Thank you for not giving up, and thank you for leaving, not just considering who to extend kindness, but who to extend kindness that doesn't look, act, or believe like you do. Thank you for having the courage to look and act and speak in a way that may cause other people to kind of question, what are you doing? Thank you for remembering that a good king invites us to a much better way. God, thank you. Thank you for what you are doing in our city. Thank you for what you're doing in our lives and in our church. Thank you that you brought us out of Debar. Thank you for reminding me as Mephibosheth, still with lame feet, not fully having figured it out. Thank you for reminding me to keep building relationship with people that are different, sparking conversations with people that I might not agree with, and inviting people to your table who are broken like me. Thank you for loving our city. Please help us to love our city as much as you do. Amen.